We just received huge breaking news. It was just reported that Nebraska has offered the #1 defensive line coach in America to join this coaching staff effective immediately. So in today's video, I'm going to give you my instant reaction. Who is this guy? What does he bring to the table? His pros, his cons. Will the Huskers actually hire him? Because there's a couple other schools in pursuit. What does this mean for Terry Bradden? Is his fate sealed? A 4-star Nebraska running back who just entered the transfer portal. I'll give you my instant reaction, an inside scoop about practice today, and everything else you need to know. So really quick, this is a jam-packed breaking news update. Hit that like button if you're fired up. And also, this is the only channel on Nebraska YouTube that posts breaking news just like this, talking transfer portal, talking recruiting, talking coaching carousel. If you want to stay in tune with the Huskers this offseason, it's no brainer. Takes 2 seconds. Join the family. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. But without further ado, we have a lot to talk about. It was just reported by Football Scoop that Nebraska has entered the sweepstakes and offered the #1 defensive line coach in America, a name that should be familiar to most Husker fans, Elijah Robinson, currently the defensive coordinator at Syracuse, formerly the defensive line coach at Texas A&M. Now, it should be noted around Elijah Robinson, the second Lane Kiffin got to LSU just a couple days ago, he gave Elijah Robinson a huge offer to join the Tigers coaching staff, and it was initially anticipated that he was going to accept the offer, that he was going to leave Syracuse. However, it was just reported that he has not signed the dotted line, and Nebraska and Matt Rhule have entered the sweepstakes. They gave him a huge offer over these past couple hours, and as of right now, Elijah Robinson is currently mulling over it, and he's expected to decide in these next couple days, not only between Nebraska and LSU, but it's been reported that Penn State's in the mix, a couple other big-time SEC teams trying to get his talents as a defensive line coach. So let's talk about what Elijah Robinson brings to the table. Then we'll get to whether or not this will actually happen. Of course, we know that currently he's the defensive coordinator over there at Syracuse. It's been that way from 2024 to 2025. And to be very honest with you, it hasn't really went too well. However, we talk about this all the time on the channel. Some positional coaches are only meant to be positional coaches. They're not meant to be coordinators. Some coordinators are only meant to be coordinators. They're not meant to be head coaches. Elijah Robinson is exactly that way, where again, he was the best defensive line coach in America at Texas A&M. Fran Brown, who was hired at Syracuse, gave him an opportunity to be a defensive coordinator, and he really didn't live up to expectations. But that doesn't change that he's still a great defensive line coach. He's not meant to be a D coordinator. We're not going to hire him to be a D coordinator. We're going to hire him potentially to be our defensive line coach. And you go back to what he was at Texas A&M, he was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. #1, everybody talks about development all the time. He is by far the best D-line developer in the game. In 2022 at Texas A&M, the Aggies were ranked number 12 in total defense. They only gave about 280 yards per game. They ranked, get this, #1 in America in sacks per game, number 8 in rushing yards allowed per game, and number 30 in scoring defense overall. Elijah Robinson not only is a great developer, he produced as many NFLers as you're ever going to see. Again, he was at Texas A&M from 2018 to 2022. He produced over 10, 15 D-line draft picks at Texas A&M. So he's somebody who's a great developer. He's great not only from an interior standpoint, but an exterior standpoint. He preaches speed, physicality, stopping the run, gains of the quarterback. But you know what I know my favorite part about Elijah Robinson? And this shouldn't be shocking if you guys know me. He is an elite recruiter. Get this. Again, he was at Texas A&M for 6 years. In that span, mostly in the last 3 years at Texas A&M, so we'll even take the 6 years out of it. Let's just talk about the final 3 years he was there. He landed 5 5-star recruits. He also, in his span over there at Texas A&M, landed over 20 4-star defensive lineman recruits. So quite literally, great developer. He's super young. He's only 40 years old. He's a leader of men. He's an NFL pipeline, and he can recruit the best. So we're going to go from likely Terry Bradden, who was one of the worst recruiters we've ever had in the past decade, to quite literally the best. And everybody who's coached by Elijah Robinson says he's the real deal. He says he's special. And there's a reason why, again, he was given an opportunity to be defensive coordinator. Again, didn't live up to expectations. We're not asking him to be defensive coordinator. We're asking him to be a great defensive line coach, which is what he already has been. But he was a great defensive line coach at Syracuse, even though he was the coordinator there. Wasn't a great coordinator, but still was a great defensive line coach because, again, just an absolutely special talent. And he's been that way for a very long time. So it should be noted, Nebraska, I know a lot of people are going to ask this to me. They're going to say, well, Wilson, why would he go to Nebraska over LSU? Why would he go to Nebraska over Penn State even? Because actually he graduated from Penn State. So he has connections to LSU, he has connections to Penn State. What connection does he have to Nebraska? 2 connections. #1, the Matt Rhule connection. Elijah Robinson, when he was initially starting off as a coach, he was hired by Matt Rhule at Temple, and he followed him to Baylor. Matt Rhule gave him his chance. Matt Rhule gave him his opportunity. So you could argue that he wants to pay Matt Rhule kind of a dividend, right? Say, you know what? You gave me a chance. I could go to LSU. I could go to Penn State. But you know what? I'm going to go back and serve Nebraska, which is, again, a great program. It's not like Nebraska's a huge step down from LSU. It's definitely a worse program, but still, it's not a huge step down. You're going from an A-plus school to an A-minus school. So that's the first thing, right? The Matt Rhule connection. He's not getting that at any other school. And number two, the money. The money is going to be absolutely crazy. Now, let me set the stage for you on this. At Texas A&M, as an only defensive line coach, he was getting paid $900,000 a year. It already has been reported by LSU that what they are offering him is well into the seven figures. Once again, only as a defensive line coach. And then I also expect Nebraska, the offer that they just gave him according to Football Scoop, is also in the seven figures. That's crazy. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, that's overpaying. You shouldn't pay, seven figures for a defensive line coach. Yes, you should. If you want an elite defensive line, if you want an elite offensive line, if you want elite trenches, you got to pay up. Okay, if this is what the big boy programs are doing, we got to be a big boy program. This is our opportunity to put our money where our mouth is. So you might say, oh, seven figures, that's a lot. It doesn't matter to me. If you get this guy because of the money, absolutely, he's worth every penny because he checks every single box. His track record is phenomenal. So again, we're fending off LSU. Some LSU beat reporters think it's a done deal, but again, it's been reported by Football Scoop that he's mulling this over, right? He's not signed anything when it comes to LSU. Nebraska has gave him a legit offer over these past couple hours. And you know what this means? It also means that Terry Brand's gone. Okay, because let's say we don't land Elijah Robinson. I think that's a possibility, right? He goes to LSU, goes to Penn State over us. Well, it still means we're going to get another defensive line coach, probably a top dollar hire. Elijah Robinson right now is probably number one on our list. Okay, we're going to go number two. We're going to go number three. This is quietly behind the scenes becoming a Donovan Raiola situation 2.0. We didn't fire Donovan Raiola until we had his replacement signed, sealed, delivered in Jeep Wade. It's the same deal with Terry Braden. We're not going to fire Terry Braden until we know who we got as a replacement. And I've been reporting for weeks on the channel to just know, like, Terry Braden, his future is very uncertain. He's not going to be here for too much longer, and if he is, he's going to be demoted. And we talked about that earlier today. So Nebraska offers the number one defensive line coach in America, Elijah Robinson. We'll see what comes from this. I'm sure we're going to get clarity in this next couple of days, but just trust me when I tell you this, Terry Braden, his future, it's almost over at Nebraska. And it's been also reported that he's been following multiple other coaches at different programs over these past couple hours. He kind of knows what's going on. He's familiar with the situation. So it's just reported that we have offered Elijah Robinson. Let me know your thoughts down below. All right, let's get to a couple other bits of news that has been released. It was just reported that former four-star running back currently at Nebraska, Jamarion Parker, has entered the transfer portal. This is the Huskers' second player to leave in a span of 2 weeks. So again, we haven't lost too many just yet. But again, I told you guys there's going to be one big player who does. And Jamarion Parker, he's not that big player, but we're still waiting kind of a big name. But honestly, this is a loss. Okay, some people will say, oh, this isn't a loss. Jamarion Parker didn't play this year. Well, he didn't play because he was injured. He was injured the entire season. Jamarion Parker is somebody who I thought was a really big-time recruit. He was a four-star. He was a consensus four-star with offers all over America. Nebraska beat out some big-time schools to get him. And again, we know how problematic this running back room is going forward. Because Emmett Johnson's gone. We're going to lose probably another transfer to this room. I would not be shocked if Mekhi Nelson leaves. I would not be shocked if Quinn Ives leaves. Okay, it is going to be mass exodus in this running back room. There have already been reports that indicate that. There currently is not a running back in this room who's good enough to start next year. Isaiah Mozee, you could argue, is, but again, he's not a bell cow running back. He's a hybrid. So this is a loss because Jamarion Parker had unprecedented upside. Was he going to live up to that upside? Remains to be seen. But you couldn't tell me there's another guy in that running back room who has the upside that he has. There really isn't. Okay, I don't think Connor Booth does. I don't think, a Jamal Rue who's coming in does. I definitely know Mekhi Nelson doesn't, or Quinn Ives doesn't. So you lose somebody who has freak speed, great explosiveness, great upside, all 4 years left, who we purposely redshirted him too. We probably could have played him, honestly, through his injury, but we purposely redshirted him because we felt good about him potentially competing to start next year. But he said, you know what? He said he doesn't like Nebraska. He's going to go somewhere else. Wish him the best of luck. But again, this is a bigger loss than what people are going to give it credit for. People will say, this isn't a loss. It is, because the running back room right now is already suspect, but it doesn't change anything. We already know this for a fact. We're going to need at least one, if not two, running backs in the portal to replace all the production that we will lose. Also, quick update on practice today. Now, I just talked to the player a couple minutes ago before I hopped on the video, and the player told me that pretty much practice, it was silent tonight. About half the roster was not there because a lot of players are currently still out of town. So Some of the big time players we've been talking about, you can already kind of know who those are. Most of them were not in practice today because, again, they're out of town. They went back home for the weekend. Right now it's a dead week at Lincoln, which means it's the week before finals, right? So there's just not a lot going on. Not like the players have too many classes to begin with, right? Anyways, that's the dirty secret. But just know that, again, a lot of players did not show up to practice today. Does that mean these players are going to the portal? It remains to be seen. What I'm going to keep track of, again, I know a lot of the names who didn't show up. I'm keeping track of whether or not they continued not to show up, right? Because, again, if half the roster didn't show up, I'm not going to report these guys because it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean if they're going to report or not. But, again, if there's a couple players who don't show up all week, then that's significant. Then we'll start talking about it on the channel. But just know it was a weird day of practice from what I heard, according to a player currently on the defense. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts down below about everything. Elijah Robinson, Jamarion Parker, let me know what you're thinking. Hey, if you made it this far, hit that like button, subscribe. As always, folks, go Met Roll, and I'll see you in the next one.